Hi folks, so those of you who watch my channel know that it's impossible for me to do a video without referencing my hair first, and this is the best that I can do. It is so long right now, it needs to be cut. It's like a piece of sculpture, literally, in the way that it's precariously sitting on my head. So sorry about that. And then you also know, those of you who follow my channel, that my new moon videos are done after the new moon, okay? This, in a certain sense, is not a new moon video, but it's an important video that builds on the new moon, and I'll explain why in a second. I was going to do one of my compass videos to give you a sense of where we are at right now, because I think that that's important. It almost feels more important to me to do the compass aspect of things, where we at, what is the general energy like, than the new moon itself. Don't worry, there will be a new moon video tomorrow. But as I was preparing and thinking about the compass video, I realized that really everything that I had to say sort of started to dovetail into a Mercury's transit in Gemini video. Okay, so it was supposed to be a compass video. It's a Mercury transit in Gemini video, but it really just serves the same purpose. Now, from a compass perspective, and those of you who follow my channel know my compass videos are really trying to give you a sense of what the overall energy is like at this time. Let me cover that first. Since Mercury went direct the last time around, which was around the end of March to the end of May, Mercury goes retrograde on May the 29th. It's retrograde from May the 29th to June the 22nd in the sign of Gemini. It is already in the sign of Gemini. Okay, so Mercury entered Gemini on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Such a tired joke, but you know, it's just like, it just slips out. So Mercury entered Gemini on May the 4th. It almost makes it all the way through Gemini. It gets to the 25th degree out of 30 degrees of Gemini, and then it goes retrograde on May the 29th. And on June the 22nd, it backs up to about 16 degrees. Is it 16 degrees? Yes, it is 16 degrees of Gemini, and then goes direct on June the 22nd in 16 degrees of Gemini, and then makes its way out of Gemini by July the 11th. So rather than its usual 3-week transit in a sign, Mercury is in Gemini for all of May, all of June, and the first 11 days of July. Since the end of March, we've had all planets moving direct. Gradually, Pluto has gone retrograde. Saturn is going to go retrograde soon. Those retrogrades don't really bother me from the point of view of forward momentum. So the first thing from a compass perspective that I would ask you to look at is, I've talked about forward momentum and when there's no forward momentum. In 2020, there were large periods of time when there were no forward momentum. We felt it, static. 2021, as I've explained in previous videos, there's a fair amount of forward momentum because the planets move direct or they move forward. And then what we have this year is that Mercury goes retrograde every now and then. It goes retrograde 3 times a year. And the same thing is going to happen this year, 3 to 4 times a year. None of the other personal planets go retrograde this year. Venus goes retrograde at the very end of this year, and we don't really have to worry about that as far as 2021 is concerned. So this year, there's a lot more forward momentum. All the planets are moving direct, and when the planets move direct, we experience change. Not only do we have the energy to take proactive action, but more importantly, the universe moves. We experience change. Things happen. And if you look back to the end of March to where we are today in the beginning of May, in a pretty short time, even 4 to 5 weeks, there's a lot that is different than where we were at the end of March. Some of it positive, some of it challenging, but things have changed. That's the important thing, this forward movement. Things have changed. This energy of change continues till, I would say, May the 25th or so. Mercury enters its shadow period on May the 15th. The shadow period is basically Mercury comes to 16 degrees of Gemini on May the 15th. Okay, it's going to keep going. It's going to get to the 25th degree of Gemini on May the 29th. It's going to go retrograde and then direct on June the 22nd, and then July 7th or 8th, it's going to be back at the 25 degrees of Gemini, and then July the 11th into Cancer. Okay, so when Mercury is retrograde, it's retrograde, but before it goes retrograde, it's direct over the same degrees where it's going to go retrograde. That process, that's called the shadow period, the first shadow period. That first shadow period starts on May the 15th and continues to May the 29th. It goes retrograde on 29th till June the 22nd. June the 22nd goes direct, and then June the 22nd to July the 8th is the second shadow period. So the reason why the shadow periods are important is that, one way to literally look at a chart, and I like to look at charts literally, I find that the majority of the secrets that the chart is going to unveil to you are very straightforward and very symbolically given, and don't require you to be standing on your head astrologically and bringing out the compass and doing all sorts of weird calculations. Okay, so whatever it is that is going to be going retrograde or needs to be reconsidered or reviewed, a lot of those conversations and communications and agreements and developments are going to start around May the 15th and aren't going to reach resolution till July the 8th or so. So start to pay attention after May the 15th. Now, I would say that till about May the 25th, we still experience forward movement. And I would encourage you that if, especially depending on where the sign of Aquarius sits in your chart, what house that occupies and what that house stands for. Where does Aquarius sit in your chart? The last time Mercury and the Sun were conjunct, while Mercury was retrograde, and the last Mercury cycle that was created was in the sign of Aquarius. So where does Aquarius sit in your chart? What house does it occupy? What does that house stand for? Especially if you're trying to create forward movement related to those themes, just go for it over the next 10-15 days and try and get as much done, particularly if it has the theme of communication. You want to get emails out and messages out. And, change has already happened in general, but especially related to that part of the chart since the end of March. And now I would really encourage you to take whatever action needs to be taken, particularly if it has a mercurial component: communication, phone, messages, sales, resumes, contracts, talking, TED Talks, technology, computers, social media, whatever it is. Continue to take action for the next 10-15 days. In some cases, you may reach agreements and things may continue to move fast, and you may even feel like that by the time the 25th is here, even the 20th is here, you have actually signed a contract or made an agreement or ready to move on something. In other cases, you might continue to experience certain developments, but then those developments may need to be reconsidered ideally, and details may need to be reviewed ideally before you put pen to paper and sign anything, ideally by the end of June. Now, how you dodge committing to things and being in review land between the end of May to June the 22nd, or I would say 25th of May to 25th of June, is going to be up to you as to how you do that dance. If you absolutely have to make an agreement during that time, know and understand that there are things about that agreement that may not be entirely clear to you, and things may change later on. And if you really do have to agree and sign something at that time, make sure you look at everything that is written, what you're signing off 3 or 4 times, to make sure that all the details are there to the best of your understanding. Everything is there in writing. Whatever you feel requires clarity has been discussed and feels represented to you in whatever it is that you're agreeing to or signing. The days around the 29th of May and 22nd of June will be gnarly logistically. Travel, bizarre phone calls with people at customer service, and if you're using transportation of any kind, transportation issues, public transport issues, taxis, Ubers, Lyfts, all that kind of stuff, and travel issues, bags getting lost. I went to the airport at the wrong time, 7:40 a.m. I thought it was 7:40 p.m. Mercury stuff, being late, technology dropping off on Zoom call, all that kind of stuff. Things not going according to plan. You know the drill. Now, from a compass perspective, if I were to summarize what I just said before I go into more Mercury-related details, continue to move forward and expect forward movement till May the 25th. As you head towards the 25th, things will start to slow down. It could be that you agree to something by the 25th and everything looks good to you and you sign off on it, in which case you're going to have to make adjustments to whatever it is you signed off on in the first 3 weeks of June. Or you may continue to experience forward movement and developments, things may be presented to you to sign or agree on, or those conversations continue, change, shift, and ideally you don't really sign or agree to anything till the end of June. Now, Gemini is where the June 10th eclipse will occur, and that eclipse is really important as far as Mercury retrograde is concerned, because that eclipse is conjunct Mercury retrograde. The Sun and the Moon in Mercury retrograde are really close together, and so the second half of this year is going to have a pretty retrospective aspect to things. Wherever Gemini sits in your chart is where it is that you need to tackle certain challenges and where you need to grow, and where things is your path of development. That's where the North Node is transiting. That's where the next North Node eclipse is on June the 10th. Tomorrow's new moon in Taurus is actually a wonderfully propulsive new moon, in keeping with what I'm saying. But then the eclipses are really kind of gnarly. These are kind of intense and strong eclipses. We're already seeing eclipsy behaviors and issues show up like they did around the eclipses last year in Italy, in say India. The heavier aspects of the eclipses I've already discussed on this channel, and we will leave that to the eclipsy videos. People transitioning, other transitions, being notified of people's mortality, change, having to release something. Tomorrow's new moon, you know, because after tomorrow's new moon is a full moon lunar eclipse, and after that lunar eclipse is a new moon solar eclipse. So tomorrow's new moon really starts to propel us into eclipse season. But more on that tomorrow and in the future videos. But as far as the compass is concerned, and if you were to say, Abby, why did you feel inspired to do this video? I would say, really, even more than the new moon, what I wanted to say was, keep going for the next 3 weeks. Take action, try to create the change you're trying to create, and you will find that the universe may very well respond. It may start to slow down by the 25th, and that's okay, actually, because you don't want it to speed up again till after the end of June, when it will. Number 2, pay attention already to what conversations. When Mercury is in Gemini, the other reason why this video is important to do today is that the new moon is in Taurus tomorrow. Taurus is ruled by Venus, so the ruler of tomorrow's new moon is Venus. Venus is in Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in Gemini. The dispositor of tomorrow's new moon chart is Mercury in Gemini, a strong Mercury in a sign it rules. Communication, interaction, the word on the street, Gemini-related stuff, the processing of information, the distribution of information, the acquiring of information, the inquiring of information, gossip, colleagues, networks, social circles, community, social interactions, communication interactions, sales, resumes, interviews, chatter, talk, writing, in whatever format, social media, technology, interaction, how do you fit in? What is the world around you? What is your network? What is your regular commute? Strange question to ask these days, but who do you interact with on a daily basis? Siblings, relatives, neighbors, neighborhoods, immediate environment, commute, all of that Geminian stuff is going to be alive right now. Venus entered Gemini yesterday, so even not only will she bring blessings to that part of the chart, but even our relationship and financial interactions are going to take on a more communicative flavor. How to, gossip and interaction. The important thing to note with Gemini is that information is not the truth. And somewhere with this Mercury retrograde, this idea of information not being the truth is going to become really important. Because when it goes retrograde, by the 15th, Mercury is already charging things up. The Sun is still in Taurus, and so there's a slow and steady wins the race, step by step, galumph, 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 that is going to keep going for now in terms of pace. But with Mercury already in Gemini and Venus in Gemini, we're already starting to get into the phone is ringing, you're talking more with your friends, there's greater interactions, colleagues, etc. That's where the growth is, that's where the networking is, all that kind of stuff. It's already starting to happen. It's already starting to crackle. The phone lines, the news lines, the information lines. But as I said, information is not the truth. Some of this so just start to pay attention to The nature and the quality of the communications, especially as they start around the 15th and where you find yourself by the 15th of May, because starting the 15th of May, whatever all that is going to be starting up around that time, remember, you're going to be moving forward from the 15th of May, reversing on the 29th of May, and then going forward again on the 22nd of June. So, and then getting to the 25th degree of Gemini by July the 8th. But some of these interactions and communications have already started. And some part of this communication, this idea of what is information, what is data, and what is the truth, is going to be under investigation. And information is going to come from the Gemini part of your chart and what house it occupies and all that kind of stuff. And growth will come from that part of the chart. You need to avail of the information that is coming in. But in certain cases, some of that information will also need to be investigated. And I'm going to develop that more in future videos as we get to that point. Today, or tomorrow, depending on where you are, Mercury conjuncts the North Node. So heading to today, it wouldn't surprise me at all if over the past 4 or 5 days, important communication events have occurred. Some of these could be that if you are looking to create forward movement related to where the sign of Aquarius is in your chart, and if you don't know your chart, let me just help you out with that too. If you're looking to create forward movement, somewhere the phone has already been picked up, communication has already happened, emails have already been sent, texts have already been sent. There's action that has already been initiated that needs to continue to develop. Remember, especially till May the 25th, and go, 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 go. And the universe will respond in kind, especially over the next 10 days or so. So Mercury, and then the other thing with Mercury and conjuncting the North Node is if there are any challenges that you need to take on and anything that you need to, any skills you need to acquire, any place where you need to show courage to acquire certain skills, any muscles that you need to build because those are important for your development, heading to today over the next past 5 days, some of that modal impulse, even challenges so you can respond to the challenges through communication may also have shown up. Now with Venus in Gemini, you're going to be given a certain amount of help with regard to your relationships and finances, but some of that is also going to get tested through this lens of, is it information? Is it truth? Is it information and truth? Is it information but not truth? On the day that Mercury goes retrograde, on the day Mercury goes retrograde, Venus and Mercury conjunct. Fascinating. Fascinating. This is right after the Sagittarius eclipse. And Sagittarius is a sign of the truth. So this kind of information truth thing, as I said, I'm going to be developing that more. 26th, we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. On the 29th, Mercury goes retrograde and it conjuncts Venus. Relationships, money, luxuries, the arts, but especially relationships and money. Why does Mercury retrograde and the conjunction with Venus occur pretty much around the same time? Relationships and financial issues, do they get tested? Where's Gemini in your chart? What does it occupy? There's going to be some deliberation there, some communication there, some sifting between information and the truth. And then on June the 10th, on the day of the solar eclipse in Gemini, a retrograde Mercury and the Sun conjunct, creating a new Mercury cycle in Gemini, which means that for much of the next 3 or 4 months, wherever Gemini sits in your chart, there's going to be a certain amount of communication, new projects will be taken, new activities will be occurring, perhaps related to sorting out of past affairs, past issues, past tasks. I know I'm giving you a fair amount of information in this video, but as I said, in future videos, I'll continue to come back to these dates and conjunctions. So just know Mercury in Gemini, powerful, strong, chatter, communication, gossip, interaction. Be careful, avail of the positive side of the Gemini archetype, which is that it is important to rest on and lean on community and information, listening, talking, fitting in, chatter, news bulletins. This is where you get information in order to know what to act on. It's important to be in communication with people. It's important to be fitting in with a community. You can't deny it. But then also I would say be careful and wary of the dark side of Gemini, the gossip, the backbiting, the slickness, the cleverness, the trying to get one over the other, the double talk, the two-facedness, the salesiness, the how can I kind of manage community interactions in such a way that I come out on top. Be careful of that, because this kind of information truth dialectic that is occurring, the truth will win out. And it would be one thing if Mercury was just zooming through Gemini. You might be able to get away with certain things, but then when Mercury goes retrograde and direct again, you might find that you're coming up short in some way. So just have that awareness. But most importantly, I've given you a heads up on the whole sort of Mercury retrograde cycle. Mercury disposits the chart tomorrow. Chatter, information, communication, networking become important as we move forward. And most importantly, I said that a minute ago, but I'm going to say it again because I didn't get to my point. Next 10-15 days, especially after the new moon tomorrow, which is about noon Pacific time, over the next 10-15 days till you head to the eclipse, take action, continue to plant those seeds, continue to experience forward movement and momentum. It's important, and it's in sync with the time. And especially initially, the first week or so after that, just go for it, because we don't always get these kinds of forward movement spurts with the personal. We don't always get years like 2021 where there is a lot of forward movement and a lot of change that is propelling us forward. So I would take advantage of that. And especially, as I said, if you know your chart, if it has to do with where Aquarius sits in your chart and what that stands for, take the actions that need to be taken, and be aware of, the changing nature of the current in terms of the atmosphere crackling with communication again. And if you know where Gemini sits in your chart and what house that occupies, you'll notice that there's going to be more activity there. Okay. Tomorrow's new moon is in Taurus, so the Taurus energy remains and is constant and is important, because even though these coming up eclipses are on the Gemini-Sagittarius axis, the eclipse in the middle of November is going to be in Taurus, changing signs. So more on that tomorrow when I do the Taurus new moon video. Come back and see that. But thanks for listening. I wanted to set up the Mercury cycle in Gemini and give you a heads up about the Mercury retrograde coming up, because, as I said, even more important than the Taurus energy is this idea over the next 2 weeks to continue to move forward and implement and plant seeds and experience as much forward momentum as you can. Over the next 24 hours or so, it could be that you entered Saturday, Sunday thinking, well, I'm going to take care of this on Monday and take care of this on Tuesday. Just know that the days and the energy before the new moon might leave you completely flattened. So it wouldn't surprise me at all that you came into the start of this week with a lot of energy, only to find that you can only get so much done. But after tomorrow's new moon, noon Pacific time, tomorrow, Tuesday, the energy should return, and you're going to feel like things are starting to happen again, certainly as you head towards the end of this week. And also, if you can, think about what has happened from a communication perspective over the past 4 or 5 days, either with this theme of continuing to move forward and plant seeds and experience forward movement with regard to your goals and Aquarian goals. And by that I mean the house in which Aquarius sits, but also what challenges have been put in front of you that require communication action because of the Mercury and North Node conjunction today. I will leave it at this. Feel free to share the video if you found it useful. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button to be notified when I do new videos. My contact information is going to be in the description box once I'm done processing this video, and you can email me there to inquire regarding rates for readings, or if you want me to make an easy-to-read version of your chart that shows you which sign is in which house and what those houses stand for. You'll need to know your birth time for that, but do not send me any information until you inquire about my rates and really know you want to move forward with me. I'm going to leave it at this, and I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully with better hair.